From virtual iftars to digital fatigue, this is Rooted Black Girls with Farah and Afnan. Sit back and ride out with us. Representing everyday Black millennial women of multiple faiths, cultures, and Ramadan and COVID-19 coping mechanisms.
So today when we're recording, it is the third day of Ramadan. So I just wanted to kind of check in with you, Farah. How have you been doing?
Yeah, so Ramadan kind of just slapped us in the face. And I think we were talking on the phone on the night that we were thinking about doing the IG Live. We're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, Ramadan is tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, and it came, and it's a blessed time, but we're definitely having to experience this during a pandemic, a global pandemic. And we're having to figure out ways to connect with people during this blessed month that we often are together and communal and making the choice of going to Taraweeh or playing with our homies or talking with our homies. And so we are gonna have to figure out a way to stay connected, but also be kind to ourselves around not being able to get the full connection, and that this Ramadan is different, and God willing, inshallah, we'll have a different, experience in years to come. What about you, Afnan?
Alhamdulillah, I think you said it really well. I've been struggling between, so first of all, I wasn't ready for Ramadan, let's be clear.
Right.
I thought I was prepared. Every year I'm like, I'm gonna be more prepared than last year. I'm gonna have a plan. It's gonna be great. And this year just really snuck up on me. Work actually got super busy, as a lot of corporations are trying to make sure they're standing in front of COVID concerns with safety and things of that nature. So work has kind of kicked up a notch when initially it was a little bit slower. And I'm also struggling between these two schools of thought, right? Which is, one, you don't have to be productive at this time, which I totally support. And then there's this other part of me that really wants to stay engaged. You and I talked, and that sometimes for Ramadan, I really like to cut back on how much music I listen to and how much social media I consume. But we have a full-blown podcast, right? I have a full social media channel that I'm trying to run on the side. And then for work, I have to be a little social as well. And so this is going to be the first Ramadan where I feel compelled to try to find a new balance between engaging and being kind of internal and reflective, like I would typically be for Ramadan. And so I'm still trying to find the balance, to be honest. And so that's just something I'm working on.
Yeah, that's perfect for the guest that we're bringing on today, soon to be Dr. Douyon. She's actually going to come on and she's going to discuss coronavirus and how we're coping with it, in addition to Ramadan and how we're coping with that and COVID-19, and then also self-care systems to help us really take care of ourselves during this difficult time. So I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. We're going to bring on Dr. Douyon here, soon to be Dr. Douyon, as she graduates come this August.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring her on here. Christina Douyon, please introduce yourself. We're so excited to have you today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Marie Douyon, almost Dr. Douyon. I am a PhD in counseling psychology, graduate of Boston College. My specialties are issues of race, culture, identity, immigration, but above all of that, mental health broadly. You can follow me on Instagram. These lovely ladies are going to share my handle, and love to connect with you all. So I feel like right now is just a time where everyone is quarantined either by themselves or with family. And, at first we were like, oh, this might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, now it's a month. Mm-hmm. And everyone's working from home or have lost jobs, or their lives just look so different that you're like, how do I adjust?
Yeah.
Being that we don't really see a change on the horizon. I mean, I know that Georgia has opened up some of its doors, but it doesn't look like life is going to be returning to what we knew of it before. Mm-hmm. And with that comes feelings of isolation, loneliness, general irritability. Mm-hmm. You could be with your family and you're like, I love them, they're my favorite. But right now I think I hate my sister, right? Or yeah. How did I end up marrying this person because they seem to exclusively irritate me? Yeah. Or you're finding these issues with people that you love and you don't know what to do about it. And then when you're alone, you're wondering, how did I end up being alone for so long? And was this a bad decision? Should I have gone to be with my family, assuming you had the choice?
Yeah.
And for some other people, it's like they might be first responders or essential workers, which means they can't be with loved ones. And that can come up with all types of other feelings of disconnection and kind of confusion. Like, what do you do with your time? And I can't imagine how all of that happening. And then you have Ramadan coming, you're like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah, that's such a big thing going on right now. I know what I noticed was I was having a lot of anxiety around family members and friends being in New York City and then being a lot of social distancing or quarantining, and one actually having COVID, and I was consuming a lot of news during that time too. Make a choice for myself to kind of separate myself from all of the news that I was hearing about, because I did definitely want to care for my friends and family that were dealing with the risk of coronavirus and actually having it. And so how would you recommend managing outside of even Ramadan, just social distancing and quarantining, and how do we maintain kind of higher spirits during this time? That's a great question.
Well, I feel like first acknowledge that that's hard, right? Because we're in an international pandemic. Whatever you do to take care of yourself might feel harder than normal. So my number one rule is always be gentle with yourself. Like, things kind of suck in all types of ways right now. Just be gentle with yourself. Limit maybe your consumption of news. So I have found that watching news is very distressing to me at this time. So I rather read my news. This allows me to skim it, stay informed, but not have the sense when you make news kind of like over the top, so that, engage in some activity with friends, right? And this doesn't mean breaking the distancing rule, but I have seen people, visit people and kind of sit across the street and kind of chat, right? One of my favorites is I call a friend and we go on walks together. So every Wednesday morning, my friend and I, in our respective cities, we go for a walk. I tell them what I'm seeing, the new trees. I'm like, oh my goodness, you should see this flower blossoming. And, we kind of talk each other through our surroundings, and I'm remaining physically active. And I think that can be really helpful to people, but also be mindful of the shaming that's happening on social media right now as well. Of you should be working out, you should be working on your summer body, you should come out of here with a business or a side hustle. None of that you have to take on. Right? Your only job right now is survival and mental wellness. So if you want to start a hobby that makes you feel good, don't feel the pressure to monetize it or turn it into a business. Just do it for you. So I encourage starting hobbies, and this could be random things. You can make kombucha, you can start baking, although I feel like everyone is baking right now.
Banana bread
I have
is
the problem with eating everything.
So, the baking, doing arts and crafts. I've returned to making my own hair products. I'd also recommend like aromatherapies, light candles for yourself, put some lavender in your bath water, make some tea. I end each night with chamomile tea because the smell of it immediately calms me. Right? Wow. Also, like, go old school, play like puzzles, like put things together that just allow you to be mindful and present. And that can be really helpful. And I think like the last major thing, create a daily routine. Try to wake up at the same time every day. Try to do things around the same time every day so that you can have a schedule that keeps you grounded. Because especially those of us who are not working, every day feels like the next day and the last day. Right? I think my uncle was like, I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. Like every day feels the same. So if you get yourself a schedule, you can feel more hopeful about, this is what I have to look forward to. This is what I have planned each day. And it can help you also build habits during this time that feel healing. Habits are purely a product of like repetition, right? So the more you do it, you end up building motivation, and that becomes a part of your new normal for this time period.
I noticed on your personal Instagram page it's at Christina.Marie.Douyon. Did I get that right?
You did.
Yeah, you had an awesome post about digital fatigue. And I didn't know that I was having digital fatigue. My main choice of communication typically is FaceTime. I feel more engaged, and I'm not as inclined to like go on Instagram and, be on FaceTime. But now I have these Zooms. I'm one of those people who shame myself into doing too much. I'm like, you should do this webinar, you should learn this, and you should budget. And, you know, I want to come out of quarantine. I said like the 96 Bulls, I'm doing too much. I admit that. But what do you recommend around digital fatigue with all these Zoom calls and FaceTime calls and trying to reconnect with people?
Oh man, that's so rough. Like, quick raise of hands. Who is digitally tired?
Duh.
Oh, 100%. Okay. We're all tired.
Yeah.
And who has a job that requires you to have some type of like digital presence? Okay. Because you're going to work, Farrah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, no, I just sit there and wait for patients to possibly affect me. I'm so grateful to be on the front lines of helping some patients.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Farrah, but I was going to answer your question. I think, you know, for the job that I have, there's an expectation to be socially engaged. And even though it's on internal boards, like there's like mandatory fun, right? So certain hours of the day, of the week, we're all supposed to be engaging, and we're taking pictures and we're doing Zooms. And like at first it's like a good idea, but sometimes now it's like, okay, this is exhausting. I don't want to do any more Zoom.
Yeah.
Have your family Zoom, have your friends Zooms. Exactly. Yep.
Right. And then you end up getting tired, although everyone is just trying to find a different way to connect.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's all via one medium, you end up finding yourself exhausted.
Definitely.
And you might feel some shame around not wanting to connect virtually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel bad, you know, my cousins and I are really connected, and they wanted to do a virtual like hangout. We spent like 6 hours and it was amazing because I love them. But I remember at the end, I wanted to get off the phone, not because I was done talking to them, but because I didn't want to look at the screen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that can feel shameful. Like you don't want to hang out with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Like they love you. Everyone's taking their time out to hang out virtually, and you just don't want to look at a screen anymore. You're tired. Your eyes might be watering, right? You might even feel a twitch and you're like, what's going on for me?
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like with digital fatigue, do your best to monotask, which is the opposite of what, you know, we're taught.
Yeah.
You're taught to do multiple things at once because that's how you're productive and that's how you're a useful member of society.
Yeah. And these smartphones actually recommend that they're made so that you can do multiple tasks at one day. I can talk on the phone with you, answer an email, but now it's excessive because our lives are digital, you know, our communication and connection with people are digital. And so I know we have to find some way to really control kind of what we're taking in every day.
Exactly. And I think that's why I recommend doing one thing at a time, first of all. And then 2, minimizing as much as you can how much you're digitally, you know, engaged. I know if you're at work and they're like, oh, let's all share like an activity or thing we're doing that's helping us stay sane during this time. I kind of want to say what helps me to stay sane is if we don't do these things, right? And that can be really hard for people.
Yeah.
But it might mean advocating for yourself. Like, hey, if we're having a work meeting that we know is just like a self-care time, or bonding time, can it be a stay off the screen time? Like, can we just email each other one thing really quickly? Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I said I love that idea. I really like that idea. I might definitely write that down, take that back to the boss. Like, so Dr. Douyon said.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because, you know, this idea is our employers want us to feel like they haven't forgotten us and they want us to feel connected and still have that same office vibe.
Yeah.
But I know, at least for my office, when we had meetings, we were no longer working with clients. We were together. There was like pizza. We'd have a little side chatter, make a little joke, then get to, you know, the meeting stuff. But now we're all just staring at each other on Zoom and getting more updates about how, you know, the university is changing because of this.
Yeah.
That's not the healing experience that our employers want it to be. And it's not something that's helpful to us. So even if you're working in person like you are, Farrah, or you're going to work virtually like you are, Afnan, you know, like me, find times to separate, you know, ask for time away virtually. Ask that something actually be an email instead of a face call. Maybe call your friends like old school style.
We did that earlier today.
We did.
I was like, I'm going to call you because I know we're going to have some like face-to-face time in a moment.
And Farrah was one of my favorite FaceTime calls. She would FaceTime me, while driving. She haven't talked about that.
Oh,
Business here.
just on blast.
And back then it was a beautiful moment to connect.
Mm-hmm.
But now because it's too much, do different things. Send each other an email. In fact, write a letter by hand.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Send a care package. I had a friend send me a care package from Boston, and it just warmed my heart so much to get something in the mail. And it had all these little pieces of things she just thought about for me. Awesome. And like a card that just said, hey, I miss you. I hope you're doing well. Mm-hmm. And this was like 2 weeks ago, and I still feel so warm thinking about it.
That's amazing.
And that can be more than, FaceTiming someone for the 80th time that day. So I encourage you, think outside the box, and that will help rest your digital fatigue